Shalom Aleichem. Peace be unto you. We're continuing on in Matthew 5:41. If you get it in the English, it's going to really be different from what the Hebrew says. The Hebrew, it seems to me, was paraphrased more so in the Greek translation of it. Now that we have the Hebrew gospel, we can see what literally Yeshua taught us. Okay, when I say Yeshua, for those that are here that haven't been a part of this class, I'm talking about, well, I'm not really talking about him, but the name that you would be familiar with is Jesus. Okay? But Jesus was not his name. Okay? So we're using the word in the Hebrew gospel. It appears like this. And it would be Yeshahu. Okay? Yeshahu. That's the Hebrew. And then you have Yeshua, which is the Aramaic form of that word. Okay, but we're not going to get caught up on the different pronunciations based upon different cultural expressions of that name at that time. But I just want those who are here for the first time to understand who I'm talking about when I say Yeshua. Okay? All right. So here we're talking about, in these last, I think it's 3 studies or so, we're talking about the balance of justice, the balance of righteousness. Okay? Yeshua said, El Selim Ra Tekat Ra. Return not or react not to evil with evil. We want to deal with unrighteousness in a righteous way. This is what he was saying. So now he's giving us examples of righteous reaction in certain situations. Okay? Last week he gave us a righteous reaction to those crows who come into your life and want to procure your goods with evil intent. They pretend friendship. And so he told us how to deal with them. Those that afflict your righteous way, the jaw of righteousness that you are walking in. Okay? He told us to turn to them the left, that is, the position of rebuke. Okay? Alright, so now Yeshua goes on, and let me get over here so you can see the board. And he says, Ve Ashir Ye Sha'al Oteka La Yelak Imeul Aleph Fa Siyot Lak Imeul A La Fi'im. Okay? That's a good pronunciation, a slow pronunciation, so you can hear it. Alright? I'm not trying to speed talk on this Hebrew, so you can't hear the articulation of it. But what it says, in continuance from what he said last week about those crows, you know, the ones that sit on the fence, that hang out waiting for you to slip. The ones that walk up to you and say, what's happening, brother? And then, you know, compliment you, pat you on the back, and then want to get along. Those crows who want something for nothing, who are still contained within that slave mentality that one is worthy of pay without labor. One is worthy of reward without being in a position to be rewarded. Okay? Simply because you receive a gift or a reward doesn't mean you ain't earned it. I don't know why people define it in that way, because I give gifts to people, okay, who in some way has put themselves in the position to receive that gift. You don't give a gift to somebody that break in your house. You don't give a gift to somebody that tried to assault you. You don't give a gift to somebody that you know is constantly backbiting and slandering you. You give gifts to those people that you have peace with. Okay? And it's a free gift, but they have placed themselves in a position to receive it by acquisitioning with you a relationship of love or friendship that is credible. So when gift time comes, you think about those credible people in your life that you give a gift to, a reward to. You get a wanted poster and it says, wanted, this person for murder, $500 reward, dead or alive. Well, they're not just going to give you the $500 if you don't produce the body. Okay? So even in getting a free gift of reward, zakat, okay? No, that's another word. But even when you get a free gift of reward, you have to produce something to get that reward. Okay? So Yeshua is teaching us, okay, how to acquisition peace with Elohim. How to react in situations that we might determine evil, but we react to it in a righteous way. Don't be confused. Righteousness has power. Righteousness has rebuke. Righteousness will check you. We're not talking about being passive lambs. We're talking about appropriating righteousness as a roaring lion. Because he was also the Lion of Judah. But that's another level of science that maybe one day those who are serious about serving the will attain to, so that we can get into what Paul called the mysteries of the kingdom, the mysteries of Elohim, the hidden wisdom that is not visible to the natural eye. Okay? So it says, and that he asks you a sign. What's a sign? What's a sign? Anybody know what a sign is? Okay. It's something that gives you direction. Okay. So when you're going on the highway and it says turn left if you want to get to Auburn, if you don't follow that sign, you're not going to get to Auburn. So a sign is something in the way that it's being used now to give you direction. So he's saying, and that he asks you a sign, direction. Okay. Somebody comes to you and asks you direction. Now we're not talking about, let's look at the character just by looking at the word sha'al, ask, not demand, but he used the word ask. So this is somebody who is coming to you not in an antagonistic disposition, but in a disposition of seeking, of wanting to acquire something that he doesn't have at that moment that he asks. I'm not talking about somebody who asks you a question antagonistically in order to create debate and argument. Okay. I'm not talking about a person who asks you a question to manipulate you into a position that you don't want to be in. Okay. So the word sha'ala, ask, stipulates that we're dealing with someone who actually wants, who is actually seeking, who is actually willing to take the journey that is needed to acquire. Okay? So he asks a sign, that is direction. He asks for counsel to be directed in a way that he's never been. So Yeshua continued, he said, La ilach imehul, to go with him. And that he asked you a sign to go with him. Let me get over here. I'm sorry. He asked you a sign to go or going with him. Okay. Elef, 1,000 feshiot, walks or journeys. Yeshua says, Lach, go with him until he faints. Okay? So we're talking about a person who comes and who is inquiring of you direction, a sign of direction, so that he can journey in the right path. Okay? Let's distinguish that from a person that comes to you who wants to argue, debate, negate, and minimize in order to aggrandize some type of weird gratification that comes from a deep mental and emotional psychosis. He's not telling you to journey with them. You understand what I'm saying? He's not telling you to journey with them. He's talking about someone who has a reasonable and civil inquirement. He asks, not demand. Okay. Not manipulate. Okay. But he asks a sign of direction to go with him 1,000 walks. Okay. In other words, to take me, 1,000 represents, anytime the 1,000, the root of 1,000 is 10. Okay? It's 10. 10 is the number of kayim, or fulfillment. Okay? The highest number in the numerical system is 10. Everything else is 10 multiplied over and over and over and over again. So being that the last number, then we have to assume that this last number is a number fulfilled. It has fulfilled this course. So he's asking you to fulfill. 10 is the fulfilled number. Okay? So he said, go 1,000, elef fasiot, walks. Yeshua says, go with him. Go with him until he faints. Go with him until his inquiry is fulfilled. His answer or his question is answered. Okay? But we want to just make sure that you understand that we're talking about a person who is willing to walk or journey with you in the spirit of knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Okay. Not somebody that just comes to you and want to have a debate and an argument to prove some intellectual point. Okay? We don't want to waste time taking a journey with them. Someone who, even though you show him the integrity of an ideal, the truth of an ideal, they're going to find a reason to disagree with you anyway. Being disagreeable just to be disagreeable. Okay? This is that slave mentality. That mentality that want to be right, that has been encrusted within a supremacist's need to validate themselves as being relevant. Okay? We don't need to validate ourselves. We're validated by Yahweh. He has given us power to become sons, children of Elohim. That's the only thing we need to be seeking. Is that fulfillment. Kayim. That fulfillment of his righteousness. That fulfillment of his purity. The fulfillment of his peace. But on this journey, as we progress in knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and divine character, there will be those who come to us seeking direction, seeking a oteka, a sign of direction of which way to go. And if they're willing and wanting to walk that 1,000 walks to fulfillment with you, walk with him until he faints. Walk with him until it is fulfilled within him as it is being fulfilled within you. But don't waste your time on those who want to validate the quality of the flesh and not the quality of the spirit. See, they got you. The TV got it. You see women walking around dressed up in certain ways, or men walking around dressed up in certain ways, and all you got to do is pick up a magazine there, right there. So you didn't dress based upon what you liked or what came out of your natural creativity. You dressed because you were conditioned by a system to look a certain way, to spend your money a certain way. These are slaves, conditioned to respond based upon a mental conditioning and an emotional conditioning to feel as if they have a need to affirm themselves in some type of way. And the system gives you affirmation. It tells you, if you dress like this, you're important. If you got a credit card, you're important. If you got a car that look like this, you're important. And so we run after these things. It's the wrong direction. Okay? And then when we see those who are walking in liberty, those who are walking in freedom, we call them weird. Okay? But there'll be some who is able to see beyond the conditioning and will come to you and they will Yisha'al. Isha'al. They will ask for that oteka, for that sign of direction, and have the willingness to journey with you to fulfillment. They will have the willingness to walk until they faint without complaint. The willingness to walk without complaint, to walk without criticism, to walk without negation, to walk without demeaning and self-assassination that we are so addicted to in this society. And we understand it's due to a supremacist psychosis. But we do nothing to heal ourselves from the 400-year wounds, mental wounds, ontological wounds that produces the whore, the pimp, the player, the hypocrite, the money-grubbing preachers that you so adore as they rip you off and produce nothing of righteousness. Who can buy a big $60,000 car and walk past the homeless and the miserable in their own community, and it doesn't move them to action. You don't want to journey with them. You don't want to journey with hip-hop culture. Just the name itself should turn you off if you have sanity. Because I'm not trying to hip nor hop. And if it doesn't sound intelligent, then the contents of what is contained within these words couldn't be intelligent. It sounds like a second grade culture. That's what turns me off. When you come to me and say, I'm in the hip-hop culture. That sounds a little bit second grade. The terminology sounds a bit immature for me to take it serious. So I have to say that this culture was developed for undeveloped people. And the fact that it has become so preeminent within our musical culture dictates to me that we're dealing with very second grade minded people who are trying to appear intelligent. And of course, walking around with your pants down to your knees is opposite of an appearance of intelligence. We don't want to take a journey with them. Okay? We don't want to seek a sign from them. Have you ever heard a person in this culture trying to validate the culture? If you have, then you have journeyed into a realm of insanity. Because nothing they say makes sense, and the fact that it makes sense to them shows and is evident of cognitive confusion and insanity. Okay? So we want to know who to take these journeys with in the spirit. Who to take these journeys with and these walks. Because we want to walk until we faint. What do we want to faint in? We want to faint in unrighteousness. Okay? See, we want to work so hard at righteousness that we faint at unrighteousness. We want to work so hard in prayer that we faint. Work so hard in obedience that we kill disobedience. So we want to walk until we faint. And in that fainting, we will awaken that new man. We will awaken that new likeness and image that is born of the Ruach HaKadosh. Okay? So when you come into this faith, the Messianic Hebrew faith, the true Messianic Hebrew faith, you come for two reasons: to obey, shomara, keep, guard, and protect the commandments and the testimony of Yeshua. And if any ideology exists other than Torah and the testimony, then you are guilty of adultery. Naf. Adulteration, intermingling, and the disempowerment of the word. where it becomes just a dead body on the streets of Sodom and Egypt. Understand what this is saying. It's time to grow up. It's time to put those out of your life who want to journey with you in argument, who want to journey with you in these insane doctrines of ignorance, who want to intermingle the word with the culture of the world to validate their own identity instead of the identity of Yahweh Elohim El Israel. Okay? So we want to study these words. We want to get a clear view on these words. So I hope everybody out there is writing this down. That's why I put it on the board. Don't say I don't know the language. No one knows it until they study it. Okay? Simply because you don't know it doesn't mean you can't learn it. Okay? Let's stop thinking like slaves. And when we see a challenge of learning, take it. And stop criticizing and demeaning and negating those that have took this journey of learning divine empowerment and spiritual remodification of their lives to live within divine culture. It's too much criticism, too much negation, too much minimization of those who have gifts that can empower the body. And the reason why they don't journey with the gifted is because they want the gifts of the system and want to conform the word to the identity of the system. That's why they come up instead of with scripture with these pretty cliches that some atheist done wrote, some capitalist done wrote. Pretty little words to make you emotionally feel good. Well, we're not trying to feel good. We're trying to experience the sufferings of Yeshua and be conformed to his death. Killing sin is not going to give you a good feeling. When you turn your face for the purpose of being empowered to kill and destroy wickedness, you're not going to have too many feel-good days. You're going to be having days where you have to produce from Yahweh the strength to bear the sword of righteousness and afflict it upon wickedness within your heart and against those around you that are trying to destroy your journey to fulfillment. Now that's about it. It's not more from this that I want to get involved in. I want you to understand the practical element. Because if you can build a firm foundation with the practical, leaving no crack or splinter, then you can begin to build that true temple of Elohim on that foundation, and that temple is you. We're not a cursed people if we turn to obedience, if we turn to obey his commandments, his testimony, with all our heart and with all our soul, diligently. And if you're not seeking him diligently, then you just lukewarm water ready to be vomited out of the mouth of Yahweh. Take this serious, because your salvation, your healing, your deliverance, your being made into righteous vessels to establish righteousness on this earth is important, and it is necessary for us to proceed on into liberty and freedom. So we're going to end this Sabbath. Excuse me for the interruption. We're going to try to cut that out. But it was necessary. I hope it didn't mess up your concentration, because I know we're patient. And I hope that these messages that we have been giving from the Basarah of Yeshua is edifying to those that come, and also to those that receive these teachings via YouTube or DVD or whatever. We're trying to get this message out. We're trying to let people know that it is not race that will justify us in front of Yahweh, but it is righteousness. Okay? And that the means of removing the curse of sin and death from us is to return back to complicity with Elohim for the purpose of fulfilling His will. So, Sabbath Seder is over. Shalom Aleichem. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you. A lot of people didn't make it today. There were things that happened out of town and the other hindrances that's getting our way. But we thank you who listen over to YouTube. We've been getting very positive responses from these tapes, and people being really uplifted spiritually. And from the radio broadcasts, we've been getting a lot of responses. We see a good rhythm going on with this ministry and with these teachings. And we want to continue. And we need your support. That as we begin to build, we're going to begin building in another city that I'm not going to name publicly, but with brothers who I feel are of sincere heart and sisters who I feel are of sincere hearts. Finally, having gone through all the traitors, backstabbers, and negators and minimizers in this ministry, finally we are seeing a revival in this ministry of men and women who truly want the Word and the Word alone for progress and development. And we thank all of you who have supported us, and we will continue to teach this Word in the power of His Ruach HaKadosh and tear down the errors that wicked men seek to condition us in for our continual degradation. So I say to you, Shalom Aleichem, love your brother and your sister in mercy, compassion, and truth, for these are the greater things of Torah. In Yeshua's name, Shalom Aleichem.